All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are starting the video up just a few minutes early here to let people filter on through. So I'm going to leave this as a stagnant shot, but please let me know if my audio is working well. We had our Facebook app reset on us, and it looks like it is working a little bit better now with audio and camera adjustments. So if you cannot hear me, write in the comments. If you don't write in the comments, I figure you can hear me. Hello, Lynn. Hello, John. Hello, Eve. How are you? It's wonderful to have you here today. We're going to give everybody another minute or two here to file in. Good afternoon, Jessica. Thank you for joining us. We're giving everybody one extra minute here to file on in for our 3 o'clock start. Hello, hello, Jim. Good to have you. Thank you for joining. I am live. It is true. It's true. Good afternoon, Pike. Thank you for joining us. We're giving everybody one extra minute here to filter on in before our 3 o'clock start. Hey, Darren. Hey, Nicole. How are you guys? Alrighty. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Colin Pendorf, and I am the Fine Art Director for the 567 Center. And thank you guys so much for joining us today on this wonderful January 8th day for a brand new exhibit entitled New Year. This is a dual show of Michael Pierce and Martha-Lynn Fortson. We have brand new tapestries, brand new paintings, and brand new 3D pieces from both of these artists. As some of you might remember, I had Michael Pierce in a group show last year, and that was the first time we got to showcase some of his work in our gallery. Michael has since then knocked out an entirely new series of works, so we're very excited to get to show those off today. They both involve tapestry pieces, which you can see some of them behind me, and also 3D Gordon mixed media pieces. Martha-Lynn Fortson is an artist that we had here in the gallery about 2 years ago, and we are thrilled to have her back. She is an exquisite oil painter and tends to work in a very naturalistic style. So we're really, really happy to have her here. Oh, okay, and hold on, we're having some sort of issues going on. Is the microphone not working?
You sound great.
Is what was happening last month too, is what everybody was saying as well. Sorry everybody, we're having our fun technical difficulties, so we're going to see if the microphone is fixed. It seems like our corded microphone just does not want to capture my voice. So, as I was saying, all right, I'm getting the thumbs up, looking like we're good. So, as I was saying, we had Martha-Lynn Fortson in here for a solo show a couple of years back. She has also since then worked on and knocked out a wide array of brand new pieces. So we decided to title this show New Year because both artists have utilized the end of the 2020 year to buckle down and focus on new works. And a lot of these works here with us today are finishing up the year of 2020 and ushering in the year of 2021. So we thought that would be an interesting and suitable title as we move out of last year and try to start fresh this year. So without any more to do, let's jump on in with our first pieces, all right? All right, and we are going to start in kind of my usual gallery tradition over here on the right side with our very first piece called Sea and Sky. And this is a Martha-Lynn Fortson painting. This is in oil. I love Martha-Lynn's work. I always have. She's just got such a
wonderful sense of taking a very natural scene and turning it into something beautiful and unique. I'm going to try to adjust my camera here a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here for you guys so that you can just take a look at the intricacies of her work and how she paints. But Martha Lynn tends to break down a lot of her planes and has almost kind of a cubist style in the way that she reinterprets her landscapes, but she tends to complete them as one single compositionary piece. She doesn't really deviate from the natural setting that she is showcasing. Instead, she kind of breaks down each area into its own separate section and color and builds up these magnificent compositions through that. So I'll just take a second here, let you guys check this one out because this is a beautifully vibrant piece. And we were very excited to get to pair Martha Lynn and Michael because they both have a really interesting use of form and line work in their pieces. And I think as we go through the gallery, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Martha Lynn has a lot of these kind of passive lines. She's got a lot of kind of structurally flat lines in there that run through that give her scenes a sense of calm. Whereas Michael, and we'll shift on over here to one of his newest tapestries, but Michael likes to play in a very similar way to Martha Lynn, likes to play with background, foreground, and breaking down these planes into different shapes. But then Michael likes to take these really, really finite lines and drag them through. And as you'll see in a lot of his works, he's got a lot of diagonal lines in here, which gives these pieces a lot of motion and energy. It forces the eye around the piece in a very chaotic kind of way. Whereas with Martha Lynn's work, you can see it's got a more passive feeling. It pulls you through the piece, but your eyes are able to linger in certain areas on certain colors. You're able to kind of see the similarities, the complementary colors that she uses. And Michael is kind of unabashful in the fact that he throws down his base backgrounds and then he uses the line work to really build up that composition and that form of the piece. So as you guys can see, this is a massive tapestry. Michael did a whole lot of brand new 70-inch tapestries. So these guys are very, very tall. And it's a lot of fun, especially as you can see on this wall, to have such a massive, high, tall wall this time instead of something that kind of runs more in a flat line through the medium of the wall. And so this has been a lot of fun to curate and put this show together. So, all right, well, I'm going to continue on down the line over here, and we're going to move into Michael's next tapestry. This is kind of his Series B tapestry is what I'm calling this, because we've got our Series A that we'll hit here next. It's a 3-part series. But these are very cool, and Michael did something different in these where in building up his background and foreground, he threw in these kind of brush mark strokes using some sort of form to kind of stay consistent throughout the piece. But you can see he's got all of these kind of lines, more bold and less built up than the background and the foreground line work. And so you can see that here in the black and the white. But it gives it a very cool and unique texture compared to his other tapestries when he's still working with kind of that very solid color on the base and then that very chaotic and energetic line work that he puts over the top and uses to kind of create his shapes and forms within the composition itself. So then that line work kind of ebbs and flows in over here. This piece is called Ocean Breeze, and I think you can definitely get that feeling right from the work itself. both by the colors and by the, again, the line work that Martha Lynn uses to orchestrate her compositions. So some very passive, flat lines that lay horizontally here that kind of pull your eye calmly through this piece. And then, of course, the trees jut up with these very heavy pillars and force your eye back and around the piece itself. I very much like this piece. I think it is beautiful. One of the things I love about Martha Lynn and Michael, but especially Martha Lynn, is her range of colors that she uses. Every piece tends towards the blues, the yellows, and oranges, so it's kind of got this secondary complementary mix to it, but she is able to pull in all of these different colors and then kind of change up the feeling and tone of what the piece is going for as she picks her colors for each piece. And so I decided to pair this with one of Michael's new 3D pieces here, and so I will zoom in on this next. But this piece is called Alligator, and these are two brand new 3D pieces that Michael just finished up. I really like this piece a lot. It's got a lot to say, a lot of texture, a lot of pattern. He uses repetition all throughout, which is very much a Michael tendency, is to kind of use that pattern and repetition. And what I love about this is how he was able to find a piece of leather and all of this twine and sticks and all these found natural objects and put them together in a really appropriate way to create this very solid composition here. I'm sorry about my finger jumping through the screen. Let me pull back a little bit so you can see this whole thing. And of course, these are three-dimensional pieces, so as you move around the back, I thought the front was definitely the most telling thing, but obviously the back has also been worked well. It's got all of these red beads, so it is definitely a piece that would easily be shown in the round, but also definitely does seem to have a solid front side to it, which would be this side here. But I really thought that this piece, along with Martha Lynn's piece in the back, Ocean Breeze, was a unique pairing, especially being that he used this alligator hide in with his piece here. Let's see if I can't get a little closer here so that you guys can see some of the true intricacies of these works. So as always, I say this every first Friday, but a lot of these works are very different in person. The camera can only capture so much as far as the color and texture goes. The gallery is open Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So if anybody has an interest in coming down and checking out these pieces in person, we would highly encourage you to do so. All right, let me zoom back out here and we'll move on into Michael's new three-part series here. And let me get a little distance here so that you guys can really see the magnitude of the pieces that we're working with. All of these are 70 inches tall, and he did these as a set. And we will actually see the addition to this piece further on down the line as well. But let's come on in and take a look at some of these. Very bold, only primary colors used. It's got this beautiful sheen over the top of it. It is a very massive piece. It makes a giant statement. It is very bold and unapologetic. And as you can see in all three of these pieces, the line work that he creates the kind of foreground shapes with, it's not quite as chaotic or as dense. It's a little more passive in these to allow the background to ring through. But you know, one of the things I really love with Michael's work is the way that he's able to kind of take these patterns and kind of this idea of repetition when it comes to the colors and the shapes that he's forming, and takes that through his whole series, but each one has a totally unique feeling to it. Each one says something very different. And of course, he's got some light blending going on in here between some of the colors that he's used. So here's a little bit of that red with a little bit of that yellow to kind of make a muted brown, which I just find very interesting. You know, it's not anything super poppy. He's not trying to include every single color of the rainbow here. He really wants to stick with kind of those muted tones in order to highlight the reds, yellows, and blues. This is the third piece of the series, which is very, very blue heavy compared to all the other ones. I love this one very much. And so for those of you who caught our October show, which is the last time that we had Michael in here, we had him paired with 3 other artists. He had some tapestries in with a printmaker and 2 3D artists. So it's kind of interesting to see his take on the 3-dimensional objects this time paired with his tapestries themselves. And here we're actually going to move into one more of his 3-dimensional pieces here. This one's called Beaver Sticks. And here's another Martha Lynn Fortson piece to complement it behind it. And so let me show you first the Beaver Sticks piece by Michael here. Another very successful 3D piece, I would say. Again, using leather and found objects. Michael grows all of his own gourds, so gourds appear in a lot of his pieces. And in this piece, the reason that it's called Beaver Sticks is that these sticks running in and down here are actually all gnawed and chewed by a beaver. So, you know, kind of really puts in a physical action of nature into a still 3-dimensional piece, which is very unique, I'd say. And then into this Martha Lynn Fortson piece here in the back. And I really thought it was fun pairing Michael's pieces with all these naturally found objects with Martha Lynn's treescapes, you know, because it's kind of like the nature, the area that everything came from is depicted in Martha Lynn's imagery, and then Michael is able to kind of take it and put a practical application to it, which I just think is a lot of fun, and kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of what Michael and Barbara were doing in the October show, whereas Barbara had the natural found object pieces, and Michael's tapestries got to play very heavily with those. This kind of goes in the opposite direction, and so check out this Martha Lynn piece here in the back. This piece is called Spring is Coming. This one is also a great example of what I was talking about with her use of color, how she very much goes and moves towards those secondary color wheel colors using greens, yellows, oranges, and blues, and then kind of taking the yellow into the purple, playing around with the reds and the greens as complementaries. So she's able to pack a lot of color into her work, but at the same time they all have a very definite color scheme to them. None of them are overwhelming with the rainbow of colors, and she also likes to use a lot of those pastel colors in her backgrounds and to help build up her shapes and forms within the trees themselves so that she can use even more bold and definite colors to kind of showcase the edges of where the tree it lies, to showcase where the background is forming. to kind of represent that figure-ground relationship, if you will. And I think that is just highly successful and has always been something I've admired in her work. Zoom back out here. Just give you guys one more overall sense of these two pieces together, because I really just thought this was a beautiful pairing, as much as the Ocean Breeze was with the alligator. Beautiful. All right, we're going to continue on then, and we're going to move back to the partner piece that is with the Series B pieces. As you can see, again, a very energetic piece, kind of leading into that Series B that Michael worked on here. It's got a lot of these kind of heavy brush strokes in the middle ground between the base of the color and the foreground or top of the line work and black and white shapes that Michael builds up here. So let me just give you guys an overall sense of this piece. And this series probably involves more colors than Michael uses in many of his pieces. Usually it sits at about 3 to 5 colors, but this has reds, blues, yellows, but then also some of these greens, some oranges. So it really gives it a true vibrancy as you're looking at it. And then again, the line work just is ushering you all over the place. It does not allow your eye to settle anywhere. Michael's tapestries here with the line work on them really kind of just force you to constantly look around the piece, constantly move through the piece, which gives it a real sense of energy. And I think that's incredibly creative and very reminiscent of what Michael Pierce has done for a large majority of his artistic career. So then we'll move over here into one of his other new pieces, and this one is very, very different. Almost has kind of like a hieroglyphic feeling to it in the way that he laid down his symbolic patterns on the underside. So here, this is a 70-inch tall tapestry as well, so it goes from ceiling to our chair rail here. And all blue. I mean, basically all blue, a small amount of red that almost reads as a brown. So it's kind of this gray, brown, and then sky blue piece with these symbols, as I'm saying, and then very light line work, which again just forces the eye to travel around. So he uses these symbols in a very almost grid-like pattern here. You know, this whole piece is taken up from top to bottom, left to right with these symbols, which also creates these heavy vertical pillars and these very passive horizontal lines. And then, of course, he uses the diagonals on the very top to force your eye all around and through. I love the fact that he's got these delicate circles in here. You can hardly even see it here, but if you zoom in a little bit, you can see like he's got a massive circle flowing right here, which just completely incorporates the eye into the other line work and then starts throwing you all around the piece itself. I think Michael is just, again, he doesn't apologize for his tapestries. He just goes with what he is feeling, and yet he's always got a very specific feeling with each tapestry and with each series. It certainly evokes a specific and unique feeling. And down here you can see a little bit of that reddish brown popping through on that almost white gray background, and then that heavier sky blue sitting on top, even on top of some of the line work here, which is also unusual. So he ended up putting in these small swashes of blue after he actually did all of the line work. And you can see that absolutely right here, where you've got one line jutting through this whole piece, and then these little blue marks that are just breaking it up a little bit, which again, totally stops the eye from following that one line, forces you up on a trail into a completely different line, and then brings you all around this image. So a very successful piece, I would say, and a totally unique new tapestry for Michael. Of course, all of the works in this show are for sale. As I mentioned before, I would highly encourage you guys to come down and take a look at these in person. They show up great on the screen, but there's nothing like seeing the actual kind of heavy impasto build up of the paint on these canvases. And of course, we are displaying these as tapestries right now, but this is acrylic paint on canvas. So these could easily be wrapped onto a frame and then hung on a wall as a framed up image. There is nothing stopping you from doing that with these pieces. They are canvas. So, all right, so that was our first wall and our very, very tall giant wall. I had a lot of fun doing this wall. It was a little nerve-wracking being so big, but I think at the end of it all, it really came out well. And all of these new pieces between Martha Lynn and Michael just interplay beautifully. All right, now we're going to go ahead and turn on over on our corner here. I'm going to give you guys a quick glance at this whole wall. So this is a mixture of both Martha Lynn and Michael, and actually the cups here on the shelf are done by Noah Miller. He's not a part of this show, but he did just finish up these 4 cups from our pottery studio downstairs, and I thought that they looked great with this series of work, so I tossed them on in here. But anyway, I digress, and we shall move into our next Martha Lynn piece over here. Let me get my tripod reset up. Okay, very good. All right, this piece is called Changing Seasons. Again, I think, you can absolutely see kind of where her titles come from, both based upon the imagery that she depicts in each scene, but also with the color scheme that she uses. Color is very important to Martha Lynn. That is definitely what kind of tells her where she's going to take a piece, what the piece is going to read like, what the feeling that it's going to invoke will be like. So this is Changing Season. I mean, you can absolutely see you've got everything from spring, summer in the middle of this piece to kind of that fall, winter feeling as you move away towards the edges and the corners. Martha Lynn works predominantly in these abstracted landscapes, but Martha Lynn also does do just some very unique abstracted work, like totally non-objective abstract work. We have a couple of those pieces that we'll come into a little later in here. But she also has some of these pieces where she pulls out the trees a bit more. She pulls out the foliage a little bit more, and we've got a couple of those as well. So really shows you how she has kind of shifted with her techniques and with her methodologies in how she wants to approach her images, and also shows how she can be highly successful in kind of any direction that she flows in with her abstractions of natural landscapes. So let me zoom into this one a little bit for you guys here. Because again, she's got 1,000 different colors in here, but nothing except for the yellow and green is incredibly vibrant or jumping off the page at you. All of the reds, purples, and blues are very muted and kind of matted. And she really just allows the yellow burst in the center to capture your eye, and then allows the kind of rule of thirds to help break up the canvas and bring you throughout the canvas. I mean, she's got these 2 heavy trees here that force your sight line up and then push you back around the image. So it's got this really wonderful drag through the image all around the yellow here in the center. A beautiful piece, highly successful. All right, so now we're going to jump into Michael's newest 3D pieces here, along with the alligator and beaver stick. These are gourds, and for any of you guys who tuned into our virtual tour in October, we had a lot of Michael's gourds on display here. He had just grown them. He had just finished painting them. They use enamel paint, and they use gold leaf, or faux gold leaf, on the tops, and then they some of them have colored gold leaf on them, and then some of them have some found objects mixed into them. But what Michael did was he took these gourds and he actually ended up splitting them in half to kind of create these face masks, and you can really see that with this one here. It's almost like a tribal face mask. And what I love about these is multiple things. The use of the gourd itself, which he grew at his home. He grows these massive, giant, beautiful gourds. And then, so he takes these natural found objects, he finds the face in them, he finds that, kind of human form in them. And then what Michael is great at is taking all of these different found objects and strings, old fabrics. So you get this very textile, textured fall from the base of this mask, giving it almost beard and hair, which is why I kind of say it's a very tribal-esque mask. And then on top of that, he takes pieces like this, which are cutouts from previous tapestry and canvas paintings that he's done, and he incorporates those in there too. So, you know, you get this true tie-in between his work here, literally incorporating other pieces of paintings that he's done into these. And then, of course, he also does a lot of stitch work here. So, like the skull that's hanging off of the head over here on the right side is a little almost pouch skull that he's created. He takes all of these beads and all of these other different fabrics, and it gives this wonderful pattern and kind of repetition throughout the piece itself. And fabric such as this right here that's got all of these holes built into it already gives it, you know, this true sense of repetition and repeating pattern to help kind of give these pieces a finished feeling to them, in my opinion. I think a lot of people could do things similar to this and have, and I'm not saying that they're not successful, but I find that with, you know, the multi-faceted parts that he's putting together here, these pieces come out incredibly successfully, and are totally unique too. I have not seen anything quite like these before. So I'll zoom up here to the one up top as well. And I put these two together because they've both got that skull head over here on the right side. They incorporate the blue and black string. They've got that similar tribal pattern in the enamel paint and then that gold leafing. So I thought that these two made a very cool pairing together. Yes, that is a gourd. It is giant gourds that are cut in half. And Michael actually, when we had his gourds in here last time, they were pedestal pieces and they were full in the round gourds, but he cut the tops and bottoms off. So not only were they artistically inclined pieces, but he actually played them as musical instruments, and they had a very interesting, again, almost natural sound to them. This almost like wind-blown pop in them. It was very cool, totally unique. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and jump on over here into our next Martha Lynn piece. And this piece is called Spiders in the Sky. Probably one of her most unique names out of all of the names that she's got for her work in this show, and I love it, but I think you can absolutely see it. It's got this kind of webbing pattern in the way that she built up the trees. And this piece is very different in the fact that she's given her background this very light yellow kind of wash to it. It's almost in a pastel yellow. And then as you come closer into the foreground, you get these very heavy trees, much less apologetic in the colors here, really heavy reds and oranges, still kind of utilizing that similar theme though of taking orange, blue, and green, but you can see she's kind of dirtied them up a little bit. They're all a little bit darker than in the couple of pieces prior. And of course, too, she's also worked in a lot more brush strokes on the trees themselves, which kind of enhances the trees. They're not just flat shapes with kind of forms cut out of them, but instead, and you can see it especially over here, you know, she's got this kind of impasto brush technique where she's being unapologetic in the fact that we've got a very red tree, but then she wants to put these highlights on and not overblend. There's very little overblending here. We've got some light blending in here, but again, heavy impasto to really push out these trees into the foreground and push out these trees as three-dimensional objects. And I think that is really cool. I love this piece. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that you guys can be totally immersed in it. And let me just give you a little rundown here. And the way that those branches form definitely have kind of a spider web feeling up here. You know, it does capture you right here in the center, and it's a little bit harder for your eye to move all around the piece. You're very drawn to these branches, to these overlapping shapes, and you know, the way that these branches do come together kind of create a web, and I think that is definitely very much where the spiders in the sky idea comes from here. All right, we're going to continue on our tour, and we're going to jump on over here to Almost Winter. This might be one of my most favorite pieces that I have in the show. It's one of her smallest pieces that she brought to us this time, but I absolutely love it. And again, you know, similar color palette in the oranges and blues, but in this one, she's, you know, really taken them to a more dark and muted tone. We've got these oranges, but they're very orange brown. We've got these kind of blue purples, but also leaning towards the brown, and then this yellow and light blue in the sky in the background. I just think it's beautiful. It absolutely has like that feeling of a cold winter's day. The trees have this barrenness to them. I love the crackling effect in the middle of the canvas where all of these branches overlap, coming out of the blue and into that yellow. So, you know, it says almost winter, so we're right here at the cusp of the change of that season. It still has some of those fall-like colors, but again, the muted nature of this piece, I think, is what really stands out to me. It's still incredibly vibrant, but it doesn't have that same vibrancy that a lot of the pieces that we saw before this had. It's got a far more kind of cold undertone to it. Beautiful piece. I love this piece very much. So here, let me zoom in a little bit more for you guys so that I can just really show you some of the blending of the colors in here. And for any of you who might be joining us right now, thank you so much for tuning in on this first Friday, even though it is a second Friday. We absolutely appreciate it. I hope that you guys all had a happy new year, that you're staying safe and healthy. Our gallery is open Monday through Friday, 11 to 4. We're asking everybody wears masks, but we would love to have you guys come down and actually check out these pieces in the gallery itself. Come check them out in person. A lot of these colors just, you know, are captured on the camera, but are not fully true to the color schemes that are in here. So I would certainly encourage anybody who loves these to come on down and take a look at them in person. All right, and then I'm going to jump over here to a Michael Pierce mannequin piece, and this is the second Michael Pierce mannequin that I have had in here, and this is with a brand new outfit that Michael has constructed, and this piece here really shows you Michael's genius in the way that he is able to use textile, texture, and repetition and pattern. You know, again, the way that he's taken this kind of holy fabric, if you will, and used that as the base for this model here, it just gives it this beautiful, pristine repetition in a piece that is incredibly chaotic. And as you can see, it's got this great headdress up top. He's got these kind of like Chinese talismans hanging off of it, and that's incorporated all throughout the piece here, both within the headdress itself, but then also within the clothing. And then, of course, as always, he's got all of these other found objects within here, all these other textiles in here to give kind of heavy, saturated pops of color, and to give lots of movement and flow throughout the piece. So all sorts of things, from train buttons to stars cut off of the flag, to other found buttons, and then lots of fabric. It's a very fabric-heavy piece. Totally cool. So it really just shows you the brilliance of Michael's mind and how he, takes all of these found objects and incorporates them together into a truly successful piece and to make clothing out of it. Incredibly unique. And I absolutely love it. All right, and we're going to continue on our tour into 3 more Michael Pierce 3D sculptures and 3 more Martha Lynn pieces. And so actually, first of all, let me zoom out a bit so I can give you guys kind of the scope of this wall here, because I absolutely love this wall. I think this one was very successful. And so over here you can see what I was talking about before with Martha Lynn Fortson's non-objective abstracts. All of these, or 2 out of the 3 of these, really do not incorporate any sort of natural objects at all. And even the third, she has moved away from the large forms of the trees and has decided to focus more on the foliage itself. So we'll pull over here to our first non-objective piece and check out the sculpture underneath it as well. So this is, these 3 sculptures are all headpieces. And again, they incorporate both gourds and lots of found objects and lots more textiles. So kind of similar to the mannequin piece. And in fact, using some of the same fabrics that are found in both the gourd masks and as well as the mannequin piece. So really, Michael, once he gets into a series, he kind of takes that all the way through. He's able to take previous series into a new series and incorporate them in a new and different and unique way. So I wanted to show you that, and then I'm going to zoom up here into this non-objective abstract piece of Martha Lynn's here. A little bit more along the lines of what Martha Lynn does, really heavy, vibrant colors here. Again, using those same oranges, blues, greens. That's secondary on the color wheel color scheme. And then incorporating secondary colors into that, such as the purples and the yellows. And this piece is titled Teenage Rhythms. I'll zoom in a little bit here for you guys so that we can delve into the piece a little. And Martha Lynn likes to start with kind of that yellow, that pastel yellow in the center, and then build out her borders into a heavier, darker sense, which makes total sense. It keeps the eye in the piece, it keeps you moving around and always back to the center of the piece, almost gives it a slightly radial feeling to it when you look at it from a distance. It's constantly pushing you back in and then pulling you from the center back out. And I thought this was just a really cool paired piece with the headdress that Michael did here. I thought that the oranges and blues in the headdress with the oranges and blues in the piece itself really complemented each other. And again, just kind of the non-objective side of both Martha Lynn's paintings as well as kind of Michael's headdress. All right, so let's continue on over here to our next piece. All right, so this is the Golden Top headpiece, and this is under Martha Lynn Fortson's Indian War Dance painting. And I really like this painting. This is a brand new painting. She just knocked these out, and actually we had one additional one, so if anybody really loves this one and wants to see the other, I have it in our staging room in the back. But this is a really cool piece. I think it's probably the most different piece for Martha Lynn Fortson in the entire show here. And partly the reason for that is it's a little more composed. It's a little less chaotic in where the shapes and forms overlap. She also kind of uses some glazing to delineate her actual shapes within the piece. And then also uses some more controlled line work in this piece particular that really gives it a kind of functionality and grounding. And here I'll kind of point out what I'm talking about here is, you know, she's got this very prominent white line here running through and cutting through her shape. and a very clean plane of paint around that. And you can see that throughout. She's got this light glazing here to pull out this circle, but she is not worried about over building up colors. She's not worried about over building up textures. It's a very flat piece. It's totally non-objective. I mean, I suppose you could say that it's bubbles in a bathtub or something, but you know, your brain is able to just ebb and flow and contemplate throughout. The color work that she's using in this too, very vibrant, very different. There's a true range of colors here. You've got the full rainbow of color, and all of them stand alone from each other. And then as you come in over here, you've got just some of this really specific line work here running through. And, you know, especially being in that white paint, it gives it a clear sense of direction, and it also really just kind of composes the entire image itself. So I am really a huge fan of this piece here, for a multitude of reasons, many of them being what I just said. So let me zoom in a little bit more so that you guys can really see some of the detail in here. But once again, she's still got that same pastel yellow in the center that radiates out to the edges of the canvas, which constantly pulls you in and forces you back out. And of course, that is right up above. I paired that with the golden top headpiece. This is also one of Michael's gourds. You can see that here. And actually attached to this gourd, strung up, is a broken series of other gourds that were done with colored gold leafing. So it's not technically gold leafing, it's a colored leaf that Michael put on there, but you can see that in the reds and purples here. But I thought with the vibrancy of the image above, the reds, the purples, the golden gilded gourd up top, you know, that these all played very well with such a vibrant piece of Marthalin's in the background. I mean, being such a kind of rainbow of color here, I thought that these two played off very well. And again, it's a little hard to see in this lighting right now, but he's got a ton of multicolored green strings in on this piece here. This piece is very intricate, and I am definitely having a bit of a tough time getting the camera to capture exactly what it looks like in person. So another great reason for you guys to come on down and come check this out in person. Take a look. These are 3D pieces. They're meant to be viewed in the round. I've got all of my pedestals up against the walls due to classes, so we tend to only get about 3/4 of the way around with these pieces. But since we're talking about that, let me move you around this one here. And you can see that green foil, the red foil, all those found objects and string objects, and just how that ties back into the painting behind it. All right, and then we're going to move on over to our final pedestal sculpture here by Michael. And this is the long stick headdress. Let me get my camera set up here. And so let me zoom out a little bit so that you can understand why it's called the long stick. And there, I'm sure you can see, this headdress incorporates very long stick, very similar to the mannequin that we saw earlier with the shamanic talisman-like papers hanging from it. This one has kind of a beaver stick on top that he has spray painted to give it some age and texture. Again, using this pattern of the fabric that he's got here to incorporate elements like the stick up top. And this is Michael's genius, is he doesn't overlook the very small things. So you can see right up top, that stick has that same kind of circular repeating pattern as the fabric that he has incorporated in the gourd headdress itself. Then, of course, again, playing with lots of found objects, the strings, the beads, the feathers, and other natural materials. It's a very cool piece. And then I paired this one with Garden Repose. And so this is what I'm talking about here. So this is another brand new Marthalin piece. And this piece doesn't really showcase any trees, but it does showcase this foliage. And I just love this. She's got very dark foliage right up here in the foreground, right at the base of the piece. Again, using that yellow right in the center, but not radial this time. It's in a very kind of pillar structure, vertical, so it kind of almost splits this canvas up into two separate halves of the canvas. But I love the foliage in this. I love the fact that she's actually got the berries in here on the foliage, so becoming a little more of a natural depiction and a real representation, like a true representation of the nature that she's viewing, but then has this incredibly gorgeous and energetic and colorful background behind it. So the eye is really, soothed by the foliage itself, but then you're taken into this background of madness in a lot of ways. It's like a waterfall and a mountainscape and, all of these trees building up, but there is no tree itself. It just has a very non-objective feeling, as it's got a very representational feeling for the actual foliage and the fruits on that foliage. I think this is a very cool piece. I hope to see her do a couple of more pieces like this in the future, because I find it very visually exciting and a lot of fun. And again, I think you guys can kind of see why I paired these two pieces together, especially with that golden yellow waterfall flowing straight down into this beautiful golden gilded gourd. I kind of thought this gourd had a similar sense in that splitness, the way that the black threads kind of come off and on the side, while the gourd itself holds the structure solid, and you've got that stick split up into two halves, just kind of like you've got this canvas split up into two halves straight down the middle. So a very fun wall. I really, really enjoy this wall and these 6 pieces together. And this was definitely kind of the crux of the show, was taking Michael and Martha Lynn and taking their line work and their color work and putting it together. All right, so I'm going to continue us on now. We're going to move into another Martha Lynn piece over here. All right, and this one is titled Warm Afternoon. And again, it's funny, Martha Lynn was saying to me she has the hardest time with titles, and titles with non-objective pieces and abstract pieces can be incredibly hard. But after looking through the titles for each piece that she did, I could tell she really took some time to think about each piece, and for me, it lends a lot more to the story of the piece than just kind of picking some sort of random title. I like the fact that she kind of says what she sees in it. I think, most people would get that this is a warm afternoon, but because she uses such an intricate play of colors, it is kind of nice to see her, the artist's statement in the piece itself in the title. And so, yeah, this is Warm Afternoon. Very heavy oranges and yellows, very bright, very vibrant, and very calming. There is not a lot of movement in this piece. You've got a lot of very heavy, structurally pillar-like trees, and this very kind of passive, summery background in light blues and golden yellows and oranges. A really fun piece. I love this. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys here. Very calming piece, very relaxing piece. I really, really find this one incredibly successful. And then, so I paired these guys on this wall with some of Michael's works, and so we're going to jump in. And this was an interesting one because of such a different type of tapestry for him, but I really found that the facial masks were great at pulling the colors between Michael's works and Martha Lynn's works together. So, of course, in this one of our predominantly featured colors are orange, and the other predominantly featured color is green, and then we have a lot of black and white in this piece. And I thought that, as you can see with this piece over here, which we'll get to next, and this piece, we've got these orange greens over here. We've got these orange greens over here, but in a more muted tone for Michael. And so I thought this was a fun pass-through abstract mask piece. Again, very similar to some of the masks we saw before on the wall, kind of has this tribal feeling to it, especially with the way that the enamel paint is painted onto the gourd itself. It gives it this kind of repeating pattern, which is a lot of fun, I think, and truly ties kind of Michael's sensibility as an artist together throughout all of his separate pieces, is this black and white line work. And again, then more mixed media objects in there, very similar to the headdresses, using same fabrics and everything else. But it was really, truly that I thought the orange-green here played across the wall beautifully between Martha Lynn's piece and Michael's piece. So then we'll go ahead now and move into this other Michael Pierce tapestry here. Like I just said, this one is a far more dark and muted tapestry in greens and kind of almost an orange-brown and some almost light yellow greens in here. But this has almost a like cosmos feeling to it, I would say. Very almost astronomical. Again, a lot of line work on here that constantly is moving the eye through and throughout the piece. And then lots of shapes built up in black and white as the foreground to capture your eye and separate you from the background itself. And so then I utilized, again, that green to pull into the next mask over here and Martha Lynn's next piece. Dimensions on this tapestry are a little bit smaller than the other tapestries. I think this tapestry was 63 inches tall by about 40 inches wide. And so I utilized, again, that green gilding foil over here to help tie in this this abstracted mask piece into Michael and Martha Lynn's work over here. I think this mask is, again, totally unique. I love the way that he put the string on top of the mask here to kind of give it like a hair falling down, but almost like a hiddenness to the piece itself. That white string on top kind of pulls the whole bowl of the gourd back and almost gives it like a mask, which I find very interesting on something that is just totally not objective. You know, the fact that humans tend to see faces in so many things, you know, I think we can't help but see ourselves in these types of pieces as you watch the hair flow down on the side, and it's just kind of got that like embarrassed feeling to it almost in the way that this white string cloth hangs down over the front of the so-called face. Very cool piece. All right, and that's going to then pull us on over here to another Martha Lynn piece. Let me set this camera down and zoom out a little bit for you. There we go. And this piece is called Woodland Rhythms. So of course before we had Teenage Rhythms down on our brick wall when we started, and now we've got Woodland Rhythms. And this piece, again, is a little bit different because she's got these trees very heavy on there. There's no hiding the trees in here. She's got the background trees that are a little bit lighter into the foreground trees that have very nice shape work overlaying the trees themselves, and that is very Martha Lynn. There is how she's taking all of that kind of contour shape around the tree and then breaking those into new planes with new colors. You can see that a lot, especially right in here where she contours and wraps the tree but then throws in these brand new swashes of other color, which of course then kind of helps add in highlights and gives these trees some three-dimensionality to them while still maintaining their abstractedness. And that is Martha Lynn's beauty in her artwork. So let's zoom in here a little bit so that you guys can really see some of those. All right, and then we're going to actually jump on over now to our very final Martha Lynn Fortson piece. And I would say it's one of her newest and one of her most unique pieces yet. This is very different from her usual style here. And I love it. I love the way that she's almost got a quilted quality to the paint and the way that she built up this tree. And this piece is called Fruit of the Tree. And you can see it in here. There's lots of fruits hanging off of this tree, but the fruits are not necessarily fruits. They're their own abstracted dark shapes. She's got this very pastel, very light orange and very light blue in the background, with then these very bold and vibrant colors in the fruits, only to then take a much more almost muted purple and orange and blue to build up the tree itself. She definitely has done more blending in this piece for the representation of the tree than she has done in almost any of them. And here you can really see that up in this branch and falling down this side of the tree here. Though she's got some of these heavier impasto brush strokes over top, there's a true sense of almost blending in the tree, and it also is here in these top branches. You can see they're all blended in together, which really forces the tree into a more 3D scape here. And then, of course, she does do those heavy, unapologetic colors on top, which gives it almost a quilted pattern to it. So this is just a totally unique piece. And then even here in branches like this one right in the center, she's got 1,000 different colors going on in here, from really lime green. She's got some almost like light pink purples to dark reds, light blues. There's a whole rainbow of colors in this one branch, very much like there is down here in the fruit. And yet the tree itself has this very heavy, dense, dark and matte feeling to it, and this beautiful blending which really gives the tree this wonderful shape and structure to it. It's a lot of fun. It's a really unique piece and something very different from Martha Lynn than I've ever seen before. Sadly, as you guys can, I'm sure, tell, I ran out of wall space. We actually had 2 more tapestries of Michael's and another 4 paintings by Martha Lynn, one of which I really was dying to get in here, but it was very different in a similar side to this. It's a tree series that's all done in blues, and very similar to this tree. They're unapologetic on the page, and they just sit there. Really unique and very beautiful. So if anybody does want to come down and anyone's interested in seeing a little bit more of Martha Lynn's work, I do have a couple of more pieces hidden in the back in our staging room. All right, guys, well, we are nearing the end of this exhibit. I've got 2 more pieces for you really quick, and they are 2 Michael Pierce abstract masks. This one is probably one of the most mask-like masks that we have in here. I mean, you can see that true facial form built in the enamel paint. The gourd itself going upside down gives it an incredible head shape. I mean, very true to life. Again, Michael incorporating pieces of previous canvas paintings and lots of the blues and oranges in his fabric and string work. right, and then our very, very last Michael Pierce gourd piece over here. Again, very cool mask piece. Has a totally different pattern on it, and you can even see here he's incorporated that circular fabric repeating pattern into this one to give it a sense of repetition and continuation. So another very, very interesting and unique abstracted mask piece here. And that takes us all the way back around and finishes us off right where we started with our large tapestry wall over here. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this show. I hope that you had as much fun viewing this show as I had putting it together. Oh, wait, I'm so incorrect. Actually, we are going to take one more tour because I forgot I did. All right, so 4 more pieces for you, and then we'll wrap it up. I apologize for that early wrap up here. So we have painting Staccato over here on our left. And again, very cool piece, very intricate piece. There's a lot of moving parts in this piece with all of these different branches going on. She's got some really cool shapes in here, and instead of having that heavy yellow center in this piece, she's got this blue circle that she started with. So again, it kind of gives it a radialness, but with all of the trees and everything else, all of a sudden it turns into this entanglement of color and texture and shape and line and form. And I mean, really, this piece just kind of has it all, and all the colors to match as well. So yeah, check that out. And again, for any of you guys who are still with us, thank you again for joining us today. Please feel free to come down and see us in the gallery and all of these pieces in person. We're open Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You can come on in anytime, drop on in. We just ask that you wear a mask when you come in the door. And of course, all of these works are for sale as well. So if anybody is interested in a piece here, take a screenshot of the piece you're interested in. We'll be happy to get you a price for it. All right, I'm going to move over to a couple more of these Michael masks over here. I love this one with this tiny little gourd over here that he's got gilded up in pink. It's kind of like an earring on the mask. It's really, really unique. I've not seen such a teeny tiny gourd in all of his works. And then another mask down below here. And you can see, I mean, he used a lot of the same ideas and techniques in a lot of these masks, but just incorporated, you know, different gourds with different patterns on them, different colors in them, and then kind of took those colors and put them to good use with the matching fabrics that he found and the matching found object pieces that he incorporated. All right, and then last but not least, and this is actually our very last piece here, and this is one final Martha Lynn piece over here. This is called Fall is on Us. So just check that out in here. This one is incredibly vibrant. I mean, it's almost like she's got some sort of tornado storm blowing through this piece. And the thing I really love about this one is that incredible green stripe that she's worked in through all of this orange. So this one has a real intensity to it. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, though it's got this kind of passive horizontal line in it, The way that she's built up kind of almost all of these background shapes really feels like the leaves are falling down, like the winds of change are ripping through the woods. The directionality in here is awesome. And then as you get to the top, it all explodes into an array of color and shape and form, and just very fun. A really cool piece. All right, and with that, that actually does conclude our exhibit for this month of January. I'm sorry, no longer sure what month we're in anymore. Okay, so on that note, thank you guys all so much for coming out and joining us this afternoon. We absolutely appreciate it. If there are any works here that you're interested in, we would highly encourage you to come on down, check them out. Again, we are here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. If you don't want to come down, then give us a call. Let us know a piece that you're interested in. We'll be happy to let you know about the price on it. And of course, come on back and tune in next month. We will have Kevin Sean Lewis doing an array of oil paintings that will be brand new. You will not want to miss it. His work is exquisite. So thank you guys all again for joining us this wonderful afternoon. May you have a safe and healthy rest of your weekend. I hope that you guys are all having a happy new year, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.